episode 250. Episode 250 of McRae Live. What's going on, everybody? My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voiceman Studios in Toronto, Canada. It is Monday, April the 8th, 2024, 7:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Were you out bathing in the eclipse today? Did you see it? Were you in a position for totality? I was going to say total totality. I went for a run while the eclipse was happening. I felt something happening. I was morphing. I was changing. I was evolving. I am no longer the same person I was at the beginning of my run and where I am at the end of the run. I'm in a different reality. That's a whole science fiction movie right there. Guy goes for a run during the eclipse. He comes back, and when he gets back, things have changed. Pretty cool. Yeah, let me know where you were. This is episode 250 of McRae Live. 250 of these things. Man, I know what you did last summer. I know there's a lot of other horror movie news that's out there right now. I've been so busy with post-production on It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 that I haven't had a chance to really do anything else. And I do understand that, you know, the Maxine trailer dropped today. You've got Immaculate in theaters. You've got The First Omen in theaters. I mean, you know, there's some good word of mouth, too, in regards to The First Omen and Immaculate. And I understand that there's other things out there. I haven't had a chance to see those things. But I Know What You Did Last Summer is one of those movies, one of those staples from the 1990s where, you know, maybe is something happening? Is something happening with I Know What You Did Last Summer? I have no idea, but we're going to talk about it, and we'll see who tunes in and see if anybody gives a shit. And if nobody gives a shit, that's okay, not a big deal. I never have a schedule for these things, so I gotta just pop on when I'm available. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit will return. Tony's just been extremely busy the last few Mondays, which is always a good thing. I mean, his photography business is on fire, which is fantastic, and so we will be back. We had a show a couple of weeks ago, which is good. We're slowly but surely starting to get back into that. But I thought I would jump on here and talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer. Do you know what I did last summer? I don't know. What did we do last summer? This light over here is pretty hot. It's pretty hot. It's a pretty hot light. Hang on. Let me just turn this down a little bit. There we go. Maybe not so hot. That's a little better. It's kind of right in the... It's like right there, you know, like God. Anyway, hey, and do you like my hoodie? I posted this on social media yesterday or the day before, I guess it was. This is, I don't know if you guys in the States had Hostess potato chips or not. I'm not entirely sure. It was a Canadian brand and it was a staple. It was it was like the Canadian Lay's. And ironically, Lay's actually bought out Hostess in the 90s. And I believe so anyway, somewhere around 1996. But when I was growing up as a kid, Hostess potato chips was the thing. And these little guys here, I think yellow is for like salt and vinegar, red is for ketchup. You guys don't have ketchup chips in the States. Although I know you have had like, you know, wisps of them. I think Lay's has done like a special thing for the US, but ketchup chips is definitely a Canadian thing. So I think the red is ketchup and the orange is barbecue. I believe that's what, but these guys are known as the Munchies, because the slogan for Hostess potato chips was, what is it? Cause when you've got the Munchies, nothing else will do. Hostess potato chips. It was like, you know, a slogan back when like they actually had jingles on commercials and things like that. And so when I was a kid, growing up through the 80s, I'd get Hostess potato chips. It had ketchup and salt and vinegar and barbecue and sour cream and onion and, you know, all the staples. And anyway, there's a website called RetroKid. I think it's retrokid.ca or RetroKidTO or something. And they posted, they were having like a 5-year sale. They're not a sponsor, by the way. I'm just like, I don't know them. They don't know me through a hole in the wall. So this is free advertising for them. But they have like, you know, very Canadian retro stuff, like Today's Special, which did actually air in the U.S. That's a Canadian kids TV show from the 80s shot here in Toronto, but it did actually go to the U.S. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. And all sorts of stuff. Not just Canadian, but a lot of it is. And anyways, they posted this hoodie. As you guys know, I'm a hoodie guy. They posted this hoodie and they had the munchies. They had the Hostess potato chip munchies. And I was like, oh my God, that's so retro, because they literally don't exist anymore. They haven't existed in like 30 years. And so I was excited. And so I purchased a Hostess potato chip hoodie. If you guys can see that, see? There they are. There are the munchies right there. These guys are known as the munchies. I don't know if they had different individual names. I'm not sure. They're just known as the munchies. But yeah, brings back big nostalgic feels for me for sure. Anyways, we're not here to talk about potato chips and the munchies. But nonetheless, I love this hoodie. It's my new favorite hoodie. And I like the color too. It's a very nice sort of kind of, I guess that's a royal blue, I guess. Hey, and it kind of, you know what, it kind of, I just noticed this now. It matches sort of the blue of my background and the blue of the you know, the bottom bar. Hey, it works. It works. All right. I Know What You Did Last Summer. The original I Know What You Did Last Summer, of course, was released in 1997. There was the sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, released in 1998. There was the direct-to-DVD, direct-to-home video sequel called I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, released in 2006. I never saw that movie. I don't care to. But I did see the original I Know What You Did Last Summer in 1997. That is where I discovered my celebrity crush, Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think I was just so... I mean, that is really the only reason why I went to go see I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, look, full disclosure. You know, in 1997, I was 18 years old. So when the sequel came out, I was 19. You know, I as much as I do... like I Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't dislike it. I think it's a serviceable late 90s horror film. But I did not go to the sequel because I thought the original was so spectacular. You know, this is Jennifer Love Hewitt. Come on. So that's why I did. And I'm sure every other man in the audience was probably there for that too. Man. Well, yeah, men, I guess, you know, we're 18, we're young men. But nonetheless, so it came out, of course, the late 90s, the staple, the subgenre, the slasher the resurgence. But as it did well, it did well. I mean, it was a success. The sequel, less so. And then the resurgence of the slasher subgenre died, and there were no more until the I'll Always Know direct-to-DVD in 2006. How well that did in home sales, rentals, I have no idea. But I Know What You Did Last Summer is not Scream. And when I say it's not Scream, what I mean by that is although you can make an argument and say that the quality is nowhere near the quality of Scream. I mean, you could make an argument with, characters, story, plot, all that. Sure. But that's not what I'm talking about when I say it's nowhere near Scream. I really mean it never caught on like Scream did. It didn't hit the zeitgeist like Scream did. And Scream is a pop culture phenomenon. It's a 90s Friday the 13th, Elm Street, and what I mean by that is in terms of like how it penetrated the pop culture zeitgeist. That's what Scream is, which is why we have Scream 7 on the horizon and No, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Or do we? Oh, do we? I don't know. Now, for the last 10 years or so, we've been in this nostalgia, reboot, requel, whatever the hell you want to call it. And because nostalgia is big bucks, it's big money, and they know that. And they can tap into and they can go, and, men like me in their mid-40s and up, go to these things. And so, and they know that. And it was... I want to say announce. I use this loosely. Because there's been nowhere else that has been talking about this. There's been nothing official that has come, as far as I know, that has come from the studio. And I'm talking about Sony. So Deadline has reported, Deadline back in February reported this, but I don't know if Sony Pictures corroborated it and said, yes, we are. Like, I don't think there's been an announcement from them. So it's a very strange story, and it's certainly not in pre-production. They're not like about to go to camera unless there's something really happening under the radar that nobody knows about. I feel confident to say that that's not happening. There was also a TV series, an Amazon series, that was released a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, and that only got one season, and that was canceled after one season. Now, I never watched an episode, so I don't know if it was good or not. Was it targeted towards, men in their 40s? Probably not. But it was canceled after one season. Okay. Well, Deadline, one of the major trades. So, I mean, if you're going to look to a reputable source, it's Deadline. It's not Billy Bob's Munchies fart blog or something like that. I mean, it's an actual, reputable, one of the Hollywood trades. And it talks about how a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer is in the works. And we're going to take a look at the article here in a second. But there's been nothing else after that, and that was in February, and it kind of just was there, and there's this director who's really excited about trying to do it. Jennifer Love Hewitt was recently interviewed on some red carpet, and she was like, oh, I don't know, like maybe, you never know, I can't say anything, I mean, it's typical PR. It's PR 101. Or 101. I mean, it's just, you're like, well, translation, I hope so, because I'd like to get paid. Freddie Prinze Jr. not that long ago was like, I don't know. I mean, who knows really whether this thing will gain actual traction? And is there an audience for it? Is there an audience for it? I recently did a poll in the community section of my Facebook page, and there's also a poll happening here right now. And if we look at the results of this poll right now, and not too many people have voted, but there's 100 people that have voted. And the question is, do you want a legacy sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer starring Jennifer Love Hewitt? 59% say yes, 41% say no. Now, generally, when these kinds of polls are done with popular franchises, if this was a Friday the 13th poll, it would be overwhelmingly yes. If this was a Elm Street poll, it would be overwhelmingly yes. Right? If this was, hey, before Scream 5 or 6, right? Now we've had 5, now we've had 6. But let's go back to 2019 or 21, let's say, or 2020. Let's go back 4 or 5 years before Scream 5 ever happened. And if I was doing a poll and said, hey, do you want a legacy sequel to like a Scream 5, right? And it goes without saying it's got to be done right. It's got to be good. Of course, that goes without saying. I'm not saying do you want a shitty sequel. Do you want a Scream? The poll would be overwhelmingly yes. Overwhelmingly yes. Like 85 and above. 105 people, 60-40. That's not a glowing endorsement. And when we look at the poll, well, I'll read it to you here. I didn't get it prepped. My apologies. But when we go to my channel and we go to my community section on my YouTube page and we scroll down here, it was a couple of weeks ago now. So we have, it was 2 weeks ago. So the question was, do you care about / or want to see a legacy sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer starring Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr.? Over 1,000 people voted. Now, over 1,000, that's a good sample size, and it's 1,000 people of the horror community. I mean, this isn't a robocall where I'm like calling random people that may not give a shit about horror. This is 1,000 horror fans. 53% say yes, 47% say no. That's not a glowing endorsement for this. If this was Scream before Scream 5, Friday now, Elm Street now, maybe not Halloween, although Halloween fans are crazy, so maybe. But you know what I'm saying, though, right? This is not, do people care? Does the audience care? And if this is what's happening with the horror audience, what's the general movie-going audience? Does the general movie-going audience today even know about I Know What You Did Last Summer? Do they care about it? Because it's not in the pop culture zeitgeist in the same ways that Scream is, right? All you parents out there that are my age, maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit older, and we grew up with Scream, right? You know, and through that resurgence of the late 90s, right? And you have children and you're introducing your kids to horror. How many of you are remembering I Know What You Did Last? Oh yeah, I know what you did last summer. Now, of course, some are, but in the big picture, I don't know. Do you care? Over 1,000 people voted, and nearly 50% said, no, I don't want it. If this was a Scream poll in 2020, do you think 50% would be like, nah? No! It would be overwhelmingly yes. Now, you could say, yeah, but Dave, I Know What You Did Last Summer isn't Scream. That's the point. That's the whole point here, folks. That's the whole point here. Right? Exactly. So let's go over to the other screen here. And this is from February 6, 2023, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel in works at Sony with Jennifer Caton Robinson. I've never heard of her. Directing. And Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in talks to return. We've heard nothing since. Following the successful relaunch of Scream, Sony Pictures is looking to blow new life into its own slasher franchise as sources tell Deadline that Jennifer Caton Robinson has been tapped to direct a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in talks to reprise their roles. Insiders, we don't know who these insiders are, say the project is in early development and that Neil H. Moritz, I don't have my glasses on. Moritz is in talks to return as producer with Leah McKendrick on board to write the script. Okay, never heard of anybody, but that's neither here nor there. Sony had no comment on the project. Fascinating. The original pick follows 4 young friends bound by a tragic accident who are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac in their small seaside town. The original was a hit and not only led to a sequel, but also helped launch the careers of Hewitt, Prinze, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Ryan Phillippe, I think it is. Plot details of this latest installment are unknown. While McKendrick is penning the pick, the idea for the new film came from Robinson and McKendrick, who blew away studio execs. This is what sources are saying. They blew away studio executives, ladies and gentlemen, when they pitched this idea for a sequel last fall. Okay, so this would have been fall 2023, especially given the recent success of the Scream franchise. That film was recently relaunched with original cast members returning and the idea of bringing back original cast members to draw in old school fans. That's what it's all about. Money. Because they know us. They know how to manipulate and get us in. They know how to do it. Folks. The film was recently, original cast member drawing school fans while also adding fresh faces to relaunch the series was too good for the studio to pass up. Again, this is not coming from Sony. And Sony had no comment. Zilch, zero, which is I don't know. It feels, it's just my gut telling me this. It feels a little strange because, well, maybe not. Maybe not. I'm second guessing myself here. Nonetheless, they had no comment. Fans relaunching the student. Another big factor was the recent success of Robinson's Netflix pick, Do Revenge. Never heard of it, never saw it, but hey, maybe it's good. Which was lauded for its throw. My glasses? No, they're upstairs. Way to go, Dave. For its throwbacks to late 90s picks like Cruel Intentions, and was something execs knew Robinson could tap into when developing the new story. Okay. All right. Sony also saw it important to not reboot the franchise, but to do a sort of passing of the torch type sequel where original cast members are brought back as a new generation cast members are added to the ensemble, similar to the films like Scream and Creed. Once the idea was pitched by Robinson and McKendrick, the next step was getting Hewitt and Prinz back on board, which the two were game for after hearing the pitch. But we know that Freddie Prinze Jr. has said that he hasn't. Now, again, here's the thing. This could be a situation where it's the game. This is PR. This is the game. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's kind of strange. I don't know. But it feels strange for me to play this game with, I know what you did last summer. This is not Spider-Man. This is not Marvel. This is not going to make, this would be lucky to make $150 million at the box office, let alone $1 billion. Okay. So, it seems a little strange for all the, they say Freddie Prinze and Jennifer Love Hewitt were, after they heard the pitch, they were on board. And then Freddie Prinze, a couple of weeks later, is like, I haven't even been approached. I don't even know what, you know what I mean? And Jennifer Love Hewitt's like, I don't know. Maybe. Sure, I can't really say. It's just I know what you did last summer. This is not Star Wars, so holding things so close to the vest, plot details, of course. But the fact that you're doing it or that you're involved, to hold it so close to the vest feels a little strange, but at the same time, there's nuances and details that I'm not privy to at the moment, which, as somebody who has signed many NDAs in my life and contracts in my life, I do understand that there could be a lot of variables that obviously I'm not aware of yet. But just at face value, it seems a little strange, a lot of the cheeky coyness that appears to be happening. It's kind of like, okay, well, they say you are. They say it's a little strange. Nonetheless, for Robinson, Do Revenge was her most recent directing outing and earned her high marks for a first-time filmmaker. Prior to that, she was a writer on Marvel's Thor: Love and Thunder and was a consulting producer on Hawkeye. Outside the Marvel universe, Robinson also penned Unpregnant. Unpregnant for HBO Max. And her directing debut for Netflix was Someone Great. She is repped by CAA and Gotham Group. CAA, of course, Creative Artists Agency, one of the largest in the world. McKendrick wrote, produced, and co-starred in the vigilante thriller MFA alongside Francesca. Is that how you say that? Francesca, yeah. Eastwood, which premiered at South by Southwest. Leah's rom-com feature, Voicemails for Isabel, was, okay, so they're going into their stuff here, blah, blah, blah. Next up for her Scrambled, which stars McKendrick and Nellie Robinson, a broke single 34-year-old fresh off a breakup who faces down existential crisis when she decides to freeze her eggs. McKendrick wrote the script following her own egg retrieval experience last year. The film will make its world premiere at South by Southwest Festival. Okay, so they're just talking about, the players involved, their experience, what they've done before. Hewitt and Prinze are repped by, we know that, blah, blah, blah. So, again, you look at this, and it's kind of like, there was an article as well, and I don't know where that article is. I thought it was in here. I should have looked this over before I actually read that. But nonetheless, that still gives us that's the template right? It's Deadline. Apparently it's in development from Sony, but they're not saying anything. This article says that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze were like, yeah, I love the pitch, but then they came out later and were like, well, I don't know, maybe I haven't heard anything, but so it's a little kind of weird. There is another article with the director of the film, or the writer, who it's an interview with her where she is talking about how excited she is to, make this movie and these ideas and all this kind of stuff. But that's it. That's all there's been. And so early development is an understatement. I mean, it is in very early development. This is not pre-production. This is not ready, to go to camera. This may not even go to camera this year if it ever comes to fruition at all. But I will say, again, I don't know a lot of the details. I don't know a lot of the nuances and the nitty-gritty behind the scene and what the larger picture plans are. But I know what you did last summer, and it's got one successful movie, one movie that everybody likes, one from nearly 30 years ago. I wish them luck. I think it would be really cool if it's really good. And I understand the intention is to spawn off, look, they're hoping to have the same level of success as what Scream has had. The problem is, I Know What You Did Last Summer ain't Scream. And you also just had an Amazon TV series that failed. So I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but that's rhetorical. But it's like, why? Yes, I guess if you get Jennifer Love Hewitt in there and Freddie Prinze Jr., that's the nostalgic. That's going to get people like me in the theater. But what's the story? And of course that's what it's going to be. Of course it's going to be a passing of the torch. So Hewitt will either get killed with Freddie Prinze Jr., one will sacrifice themselves for the other, or they'll both die, or they'll both live and go off into the sunset, never to be heard from again, and we just follow these new characters. But I Know What You Did Last Summer. I don't know if this franchise has the bandwidth to be a Scream. It's not a whodunit, right? And so, I mean, it's kind of a whodunit in the sense you don't know, but not really. I mean, it can be, I guess, kind of, because you're like, oh, who's the killer? But it's not the same kind of thing, right? It's not the same kind of thing. And so the longevity of Scream is not that, and I know there's a lot of Scream fans that watch and follow me, but I will say the longevity of Scream is not that all the Scream movies are great. I know this is my opinion, but to be totally honest with you, I think the Scream movies, at this point, they're diminishing returns. It's just the same thing over again. And that's not a bad thing, because they've not had, they've yet to have a Freddy's Dead or a Halloween, Resurrection or something. I mean, there isn't a bad Scream movie, but it's just kind of, they're locked into this formula. I'll be very curious to see what they do with 7, but if it's just another Scream movie where, there's a mystery, somebody's mad at Sydney and now he's going after her family, and, and then there's the Scooby-Doo moment, and, and the killer takes 10 minutes to tell them why they're so evil, and the killer dies, and that's the end of the movie. It just like, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. I mean, what's the movie going to be called? I Know What You Did 30 Summers Ago? I mean, really, I'll always know what you did that summer, even though the 2006 movie was I'll always know what you did last summer. I'll always know what you did that summer, I think, is a good title. But then again, it only depends if it's connected to Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. I mean, maybe the story has nothing to do with them. They're just caught up in it because they're familiar with this kind of thing. Maybe they're going to try and do a Scream thing where somebody's learned about the legend of the fisherman, and they want to replicate their own kind of thing on the 4th of July. Yeah, they want to do their own fisherman thing. So they take inspiration from the legendary fisherman from, the 4th of July, 1997. And so in a weird way, it's kind of Screamish in that sense, whereas it's copycat killer, but and then, and Jennifer Love Hewitt, they're brought back into it because they're the old guard. And we know how this is going to go. And there's nothing wrong with it in and of itself. But, look at the poll. You know, look at that poll on my community page. Over 1,000 people voted and nearly 50% said no. You would not get that. The poll here today is 131. 63% say yes. 37% say no. You know, but it's difficult to gauge as well. Live polls are difficult to gauge because live polls, and I say this with all due respect to people who voted. I'm not saying that you voted disingenuously. I'm just simply saying that live polls can be a bit tricky because subconsciously people can be persuaded by the host, right? And by the enthusiasm, it can be very easy for the host to persuade voting because they can say something like, I mean, this is unreal. How crazy, you know, the yeses are not that high. And then people go, oh, I'm going to try and get the yeses higher. You know what I mean? And they can do that. They can take back their vote and vote again. I'm not saying you've done that. I'm just saying that people can be subconsciously persuaded by the energy of a host during a live stream. And I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about anybody. They're fun, and I'm not saying they're to completely dismiss them. I'm just saying that putting up a random poll where there's no, you know, glitz and glam. There's, you know, you don't have me and my theatrics and my passion. It's just text on a screen. Hey, what do you think of this or this, right? Those polls tend to be, at least I think, a little more genuine. A little more genuine because there isn't the influence. There isn't the theatrical influence behind it. Over 1,000 people voted. Nearly 50% said, no, I don't give a fuck about, and I know what you did last summer sequel. I don't care. I don't want one. That's high. That's high. Because you would not get that with Friday the 13th or Elm Street or Scream 5 years ago. No way. No way. No fucking way. No way. It's pretty high. And those are horror fans. And so that right there tells you all you need to know, right? I mean, you know, and there's more, you know, it's not just the horror fans you've got to get into the movie theater. It's the general movie-going audience too. Anyways, I find this all fascinating. And I'm a fan of the first movie. I'd say that for sure. Yeah, I'm a fan of the first movie. I liked it. I could watch it. I like it. Not a big fan of the second movie. And then I never saw that third, one. So it's interesting. It's interesting to me to hear this news. We haven't heard, anything since. Despite what the article on Deadline says, Freddie Prinze was like, I haven't heard anything. Maybe that's different now. I don't know. And Jennifer Love Hewitt was playing kind of coy on the red carpet. And I understand that, again, having signed many NDAs in my life, there are certain projects that I can't even tell you I'm involved in. So it's entirely possible that that has happened here. That, hey, we've spoken to you. This is what's happening. Here's what we're going to try and do, but we're going to sign an NDA. So she has to be all like, oh, I don't know, maybe. But it feels strange to me with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Marvel, sure. Star Wars, yeah, because there's so much on the line. There's so much at stake. It's a multi-billion-dollar franchise. I Know What You Did Last Summer? It unless there's something I'm not aware of, and there very well could be, it feels a little strange to play it coy. But again, I mean, there's variables I'm not aware of. Anyways, folks, if you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on I Know What You Did Last Summer, a legacy sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer. Do you want to see one? Do you not want to see one? Do you not care? A lot of people don't care. And I don't blame them, really, at the end of the day. And I'm not quite sure. I would love to know what this pitch was. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying this pitch is not this. But according to the Deadline article, and sure, they may have flowered it up a little bit to, be supportive. But I would love to know what this I Know What You Did Last Summer legacy sequel was. The pitch was. That was so good, it blew executives away where they said, yes, go to town and do it. Okay, well, We're waiting and we're seeing, aren't we? We're waiting and we're seeing. Let's jump over to the chat room and see what all you are saying now. And this is your opportunity to get your questions into me. Let's get over to some of the super chats that came in. Nick Jenny, hey, Nick Jenny, what's going on? Sends in $1.99 and says, much love to you, Dave. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. Josh McKenna sends in $1.99 and says, is one of two, says, did you see the eclipse today? I did. Well, I didn't have eclipse glasses, but I was out jogging while it was happening. So it was really cool as I was jogging. And here in Toronto, we didn't get totality, but almost totality, like 80 or 90% or something. It was pretty crazy. And as I was jogging along this path near where I live, it started to get darker and darker and darker and darker. And then it got so dark that the lights on the path came on, and I had to take my sunglasses off. And, it was like I was jogging at 8 o'clock in the evening on a hot summer night, or it's not hot out, but on a summer night. So it was pretty cool. And it lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then it started to get light again. It was pretty cool. I was on the rooftop of Chorus Entertainment in Toronto. It's one of the big entertainment studios here in Canada. They own a lot of TV networks and everything. And in 2017, in August of 2017, which I believe was the last eclipse, at least I think it was the last one. I think it was the last solar eclipse. I was doing some Lego Ninjago. Do you remember the Lego Ninjago movie? I was doing some promos for that movie. And after we were done, the producer, Dan, was like, dude, come up to the rooftop. I've got some eclipse glasses. Come up to the rooftop of, the building, and let's watch the eclipse. I was like, let's do it. So I went up to the rooftop, and everybody who worked in the building was, up there. That's not that big of a building, maybe 10 stories, something like that. It's a big building though. But we were all on, the rooftop, and, we're looking up, and I had, the glasses on, and it was really cool. It was really, really cool. But that was a cooler experience because I was able to actually look at it. Whereas today I couldn't. Like I got a sense of it. Like there was a couple of times I went like this and just kind of got a sense of it. And for like a split second, I saw the crescent, moon that it kind of creates. And it's cool. It's fucking cool, man. It's really cool. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And then two of two, Josh sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Says, have you and Bruce ever pulled any April Fool's pranks on each other, or pull any pranks on each other in general? No. I've never pulled any April Fool's jokes or pranks at all, I don't think. I mean, maybe when I was a little kid, maybe in elementary school, but certainly not as an adult. And Bruce and I usually don't play pranks on each other. The only time that I've been genuinely surprised in my life, and I mean genuinely surprised, that I didn't see it coming, and it's not a prank, it's just a surprise, was for my 30th birthday. My mom, who was alive at the time, and my sister had called all my friends, unbeknownst to me, to set up a surprise 30th birthday party. And I didn't know this. This is 2009. And I didn't know this. I knew nothing about it. And my birthday rolled around, and my mom was just like, I want to take you. My mom and my sister were like, we'd like to take you out for dinner. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, whatever. And then, so what ended up happening is, slowly over the afternoon, my friends kept arriving to the house, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, what? And friends I hadn't seen in a while either. I'm like, what? So it was really cool. And then we all went out to dinner, and it was, and that genuinely surprised me. It's not a prank, but it's a surprise. But no, we've never played any pranks or anything like that. Kyle Buckley sends in $5 and says, yo, Dave, I'm visiting from Philly to Canada at Niagara Falls. Hey, you must have seen the eclipse. My wife and I got a great view of the eclipse. Very cool. Well, welcome to Canada, Kyle. welcome to Canada. Yeah, that's Niagara Falls was the epicenter. And that's only about an hour from Toronto. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. All the good names are taken. I'm assuming this is Ronnie. Sends in $4.99 and says, would have loved to see the pitch for this. The sequel was so bad that I never want to see another one of these unless they bring back Jack Black. Yeah, again, there is a lot of stuff that please understand that there is a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors, in terms of the development process that the general public knows nothing about. There was a lot of stuff, and it's, again, It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2 obviously is not a studio Hollywood film, but there was so much that was going on behind the scenes, so much that was happening that you guys didn't know about, that I didn't get on and, tell you about it, or, there's so much that goes on in the making of a movie. There's so many layers and so much of the process and so many people and so many emails and discussions and things that you think are going to happen that don't end up happening, the things you don't end up happening that happen. There's so much that goes on that by the time, and this is sort of a, in terms of Billy too, what we went through was a small version of what would be going through with a studio released film, right? So, by the time the general public, by the time it hits the trades and the general public gets whatever information that they finally have agreed upon to put out there, there is so much that goes on and many different reasons for people remaining hush-hush or signing NDAs or whatever the case is. And that's why I say that, it's not unprecedented for a film to be in development and actors, you read about actors getting sort of, talked to, and then they talk to the actors and they're like, oh, I don't know. No, that's not unprecedented. I just find it it's kind of funny to me because it's, I know what you did last summer. It's not like this gigantic property, but there could very well be other reasons for it. And a reason as simple as signing just an NDA. It doesn't matter the reason you sign an NDA. When you sign an NDA, legally, you are not allowed to speak about the project. So it could just be as simple as that. It could just be as simple as that. I don't know. But nonetheless. The sequel, I agree, is not very good. It's got Jennifer Love Hewitt in it, and she's, in a bikini in a suntanning bed. So, that's always nice, I guess. But, beyond that, it's not a very good movie. And then I never saw the third one. So, we'll see. And listen, I hope everything that we read in the Deadline article is true. I hope it's a fantastic pitch. Or I hope it was I hope it really happened. I hope it was a fantastic pitch. And I really hope this thing is in development and they've got something really special here. Who knows? We'll see. We shall see. Davey Deathray, what's going on, Davey Deathray? Sends in $5. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Says, a little payment for your appearance in the chat the other night, Dave. Oh, you didn't have to do that. Although I did send you an invoice. The check is in the mail for the rest. Looking sharp in your Blue Jays hat, sir. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, got to support the home team. Although they're not off for a very good start. Although the Rogers Center, where the Blue Jays play, just had a $400 million renovations. It looks spectacular. The building opened in 1989. It's one of the oldest in the league, but it looks spectacular now. And today is their home opener, but they're not off to a good start. But it's early. Chris Snyder sends in $5. Thank you, Chris, and says, if social media is a huge plot point and Julie's secret being on the internet, it can be called We All Know What You Did Last Summer. Could be anyone. That's true. Oh, I have no doubt that they would probably try to use the modern, technology in their film, for sure. Whether that's, social media, TikTok, they may have to come up with their own thing, but, that kind of thing. Oh, for sure. It's not that there isn't a story to be told. I just hope that it is really good. And if this thing takes off. because it doesn't have name recognition. I mean, it has a little bit of name recognition, but not like Scream, right? I mean, listen, when a poll on my channel, a horror channel, and I ask people, not the poll here today, the poll here today is a bit, the yeses are a bit more, but when I ask in the community section, and over 1,000 people voted, and nearly 50% said, I don't give a shit. I mean, can you imagine 50% saying they don't want a Friday the 13th? Come on, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I will watch with curious eyes. Andrew Stevens. No, excuse me. Michael Parton sends in $10. Thanks, buddy. Says, hi, Dave. I'm here to support other channels like you, especially in times like this. Appreciate that, because my two Wham besties are going through really hard times right now. Mainly Jay is recently losing loved ones. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, well, shout out to Jay from We Watched a Movie. I know he lost his mom about a year or two ago. I know that, and that's obviously, I mean, I've lost my mom, so I know how difficult that is. I was unaware that Mike and Jay are going through some tough times, and Jay is going through some more tough times. I'm not sure of what the specifics are for that, but shout out to Mike and Jay of We Watched a Movie. I love those guys. They're a lot of fun, and have always been a good support to this channel as well. So just keep doing what you're doing, hang in there, and just, surround yourself with the right people. That's what it's really all about. You know what I mean? Is to surround yourself with the right people, to surround yourself with people that can support you and can lift you up when you're feeling down. And so shout out to Mike and Jay. Andrew Stevens sends in $10. Thank you, Andrew. One of our great mods here says, just give me Jennifer Love Hewitt in a tank top running from terror for 80 minutes and I'll pay for the ticket. Well, and I think, look, I mean, that is the hook, right? What is the hook? That is the hook. That is the hook. That is absolutely the hook, is Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr., but more so Jennifer Love Hewitt. And so, I mean, she's not 19 anymore. We all get older, but she still looks good for it. I don't know if she'd be running around in a bikini. I'm not saying that she couldn't. I'm just saying that, I don't know if she would today do that at 45. But she still looks good. I saw her on a podcast, the Michael Rosenbaum podcast. That's his name, right? I think that's his name. She still looks great. She looks great. She's aging very well. Nick Jenny sends in $4.99, says, Dave, curious to know when you plan on doing the McRae live perk shows. Much love, brother. Yes, thank you for that. I would probably want to start this summer at some point. That's kind of my goal. Like late spring, summer, I want to start doing that, because we're also hopefully, fingers crossed, also going to start shipping some of the perks that can be shipped, like t-shirts and hoodies and things like that. Obviously, they're, the Blu-rays, we can't ship those until the movie's done and it's online. But right now we are like deep in post-production right now, which is part of the reason why I haven't been on here in almost 2 weeks, which my apologies. But it's just been so busy but post-production is going well. It's looking good. We're editing a scene right now that is a lot of fun, and it's looking really good. It's sounding great. The performances are great. And so very happy with where things are in terms of post. But yes, I would say probably like late spring. I'm just trying to get kind of into a place where I feel I can start kind of juggling that now. Do you know what I mean? But it's definitely going to happen for sure. 100%. Well, of course it's going to happen, but I mean, it's going to happen probably within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'm hoping I can start doing that. Maybe sooner. I got to talk to Tony as well, because we also have some Two Dudes perks we got to do as well. But that's always a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to having you on. I'm looking forward to having Davey Deathray on as well, talking some Evil Dead, and it'll be a lot of fun for sure. So yeah, and then the campaign, by the way, the campaign is still up, folks. It's still there. And there will be at some point, just to let you know, at some point, I don't know when yet, but at some point during the next few months, like, you know, May, June, July, like somewhere in the summer, at some point you'll hear an announcement that that this is your last chance to get your name in the end credits. Because obviously there has to come a time where we've locked the film, the credits are done, that's it. That doesn't mean that you can't continue to purchase perks, but after we've locked it, then any perks you were to buy, you'll still get those perks, but your name will no longer appear in the end credits. So if you want your name in the end credits of It's Me Billy Chapter 2, you may want to think about going over to the campaign now, link is in the description, and picking up a perk, a Blu-ray, a hoodie, a t-shirt, a poster, whatever. There's one associate producer perk, which is still left. So if you want your name as an associate producer in the end credits, there's one left. You got to do it now. So that will be happening too. There will be at some point where we say campaign will remain open for a little bit, but this is the deadline to get your name in the end credits. And once that's passed, then that's it. So yeah, lots happening, but yes, it's definitely happening, my man. And thank you for asking me about that. All right. I think I've got all the super chats. I believe I do. Let's check in and see what some of you are saying here. Some non-super ones here. Anybody talking about, I know what you did last summer. I don't know. The fact that people aren't even talking about it goes to show you nobody cares. Nobody cares. Let me see here. Let me see. Josh Stevens says, I know what you did last summer, crossover with Night Swim. I know where you swam last summer. I still haven't seen Night Swim. I have not seen Night Swim yet. I hear it's not very good, though. Man, I'm thirsty today. Thirsty. I still haven't seen it. Let me scroll back here and see. We got... Scrolling back. And yeah, nobody's talking about I know what you did last summer. I mean, there's a few mentions of it, but nobody cares. Blair Hathaway says, Dave, who is your favorite Blue Jay of all time? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I have a favorite Blue Jay of all time. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't think I have one. Honest truth, I don't think I have one. Ryan Oshlow says, Dave, who's your favorite Sabres player and why? Oh, my favorite Buffalo Sabres player. Well, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, a little boy, my favorite Buffalo Sabre was Tom Barrasso. And because he started off playing for the Sabres before he was traded to the Penguins. And so this is like the early to mid 80s. And so he was my favorite Buffalo Sabre. And then in the early 90s, my favorite hockey player of all time is Pat LaFontaine. And he was like him and Alexander Mogilny on the Buffalo Sabres were, fucking incredible. That Sabres team, like 92, 93, Mayday, like that generation of Buffalo Sabres team was incredible. The rest of the chat has no idea why I just did that. But and then, of course, because of what my dad did for a living, I was very fortunate that when the Ottawa Senators got their hockey team again, the first year that the Senators were around, my dad was covering all of the games. And so I would go to a lot of the home games, and my dad would tell me where to go. There was these set of stairs at the back of the arena where a lot of the fans would wait for the hockey players to come up the stairs to get their autograph. Because the dressing rooms were kind of at the bottom of the stairs, and they would come up that stairs. And there was a back way they would go to, but, a lot of times the hockey players would go up there. Anyways, I would go. My dad would say, go and wait there. My dad would go down into the dressing room area, and then he would walk up that set of stairs, and I felt so I felt very important. I was 12, and he would call to me to come, and the security would let me go, and I would go with my dad down the stairs, and I felt so cool. And I got to go into the Buffalo Sabres dressing room, and I met Pat LaFontaine and Grant Fuhrer and Alexander Mogilny and Dale Hawerchuk and Dave Anderchuk, and that's when they were all on the Buffalo Sabres. And one of the coolest things was that was actually at the game. During the morning skate that morning, because if you're a hockey fan, which I'm assuming you are, or I don't know why you would ask me what my favorite Buffalo Sabre was, but anyway, not that you can't ask me that, but during the morning skate that morning, I was also at the morning skate. And I met Pat LaFontaine there, and I spoke to him, and we talked for like 10 minutes, and then my dad did an interview with him, and then what's really cool is that night, I think they were playing the Montreal Canadiens, because I took my friend Derek, and he was a big Montreal fan. And so my friend and I went to those stairs. He was with me, and we went down the stairs. And when I walked into the dressing room, Pat LaFontaine was right there. And he turned to me, and he's like, "Hey, Dave, what's going on?" I'm like, my God, he remembered me. I mean, but yeah, because he saw you like 8 hours ago at the morning skate. Like, it's not that big of a deal, right? But it's still kind of a cool deal. You know what I mean? Like, you're 12 years old and you're like, oh my God. He's like, "Hey, Dave, what's going on, man?" Like, it was really cool. And got his autograph. He signed my jersey. And Pat LaFontaine is a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's one of the greatest hockey players of all time. His career was sadly cut short because of concussions, but he was great. And anyways, it was really, really cool. And I met a lot of people that way, on a lot of teams, and then when my dad would go on the road with the team, depending on where he was going, I would get out my hockey cards, and I would, like, say he was going to Pittsburgh, I would get out my Mario Lemieux card and my Jaromir Jagr card, and I would hand them to my dad, and if you could get their autograph, and he's like, "Well, I can't promise anything." He always came back with their autograph. So I have Mario Lemieux's autograph on a hockey card, Wayne Gretzky's autograph on a hockey card, Jaromir Jagr's autograph on a hockey card. They're stored away. But it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, that was Pat LaFontaine would be my favorite hockey. It's not that I don't have a favorite, like I don't have favorites in the different eras. Like I would say in the modern era, Sidney Crosby's probably my favorite hockey player right now, although he plays for the Penguins, not the Sabres. But, but back in the day, yeah, I was a huge LaFontaine fan for sure. Had the jersey, the name, everything, Thanks for the question. Appreciate that. Chris Snyder. Oh, no, wait. I already got that one. Hang on. Some more have come in here as I was yabbering. Hang on a sec here. Let me see here. Movie Chat and More. Hey, Movie Chat and More. Richard, what's going on? Sends in $5. Thanks, buddy. Says, last summer is okay, but it's just a killer fisherman walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek while the joke about H2O is objectively incorrect. The joke about H2O is objectively incorrect. There's nothing objectively incorrect about it, Richard. It's my opinion. And it's an opinion based on the fact that I know that Halloween H2O was also has Michelle Williams in it, and Michelle Williams was in Dawson's Creek. And I believe one of the writers on H2O, if I'm not mistaken, was also there. There's another Dawson's Creek connection on H2O, if I'm not mistaken. And so the reason why I use that as sort of a quip to H2O is because it's set in an environment that doesn't look like Halloween, doesn't feel like Halloween, doesn't resemble Halloween. It's void. Halloween H2O is void of atmosphere. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have moments of atmosphere, but overall, it's essentially void of anything. I don't think it's a scary film at all. I think it was capitalizing on the Scream. Well, it's not. I think it was capitalizing on the Scream, hysteria and the resurgence of the slasher subgenre. And Dawson's Creek was a huge show at that time. Michelle Williams was on that show, and she happened to be in Halloween H2O. And so, you draw the connection, and it's a quip, to kind of, obviously it doesn't literally feel like Dawson's Creek. Well, no, of course not. Neither does I Know What You Did Last Summer. But it's to quip to make an overall point of the more of the teen soap opera feel of the shows, of the television shows of the time, right? The production value and the television shows of that era and of that time, as opposed to anything really Halloween. Now that's my opinion. You talk to Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards, and it's one of his favorite Halloween movies of all time. He loves it, The Mask included. He even loves seeing the eyes. Like, he is an unapologetic, unabashed Halloween H2O fan. And good for him. Good for him. You know what I mean? I think that's amazing. I think that's awesome. I don't agree with him, but I think that's amazing. And so, there's nothing objectively incorrect about it. Nothing objectively incorrect about it, Richard. Let me see here. Evil Monsterism, one of our great members, sends in a member chat, says, Dave, are there any movies that aren't generally considered great that are guilty pleasure movies for you that you really like? Also, I highly recommend Late Night with the Devil. It was amazing. Yeah, that's another one that I still have to see. Movies that generally aren't considered great that are guilty pleasure movies that you really like. Well, I think it's become more liked now, but I remember when The Burbs wasn't really that liked. At least not from, like, the general consensus was The Burbs wasn't really a, you know what I mean? It's a cult film, right? So it doesn't kind of have that general big kind of broader appeal. It's a black comedy. And I remember like it, I remember when it first came out and sort of it just wasn't, but I always really liked it. I really like The Burbs a lot. But I wouldn't necessarily say, I don't know if that's a good example of what you're talking about, because I think a lot of people like it more now. But again, look at A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I mean, listen, people can fucking say they like that movie now. That was one of my favorite movies when the film came out. So, I'm not one of these bandwagoners that, decided to suddenly recognize, not that there's anything wrong with that. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. But listen, when I was a kid in the 80s, there were only 2 Elm Street movies. When I got into Elm Street, there was the first one and the second one. And, there was no Dream Warriors or anything like that. So when I was watching Elm Street, now I loved Elm Street 2. Loved it. And, I was 6 years old when it came out, so I was young, but I was old enough not to necessarily recognize on a mature level the homosexual sort of tones of it. But I was able to recognize some of it. You're old enough that you kind of get a little bit of it. But I just love the feeling of the movie, the atmosphere, Freddy, the look, the bus dream sequence, I really like that movie. And nobody liked that movie. Nobody liked that. Again, now it's like hip to like it. You know what I mean? So I think if I could discover a lot of guilty pleasure movies that are considered bad, but I really like, they're probably going to come from a long time ago. And they've probably come full circle now where like people are like, it's cool to like it now. I hate when that happens. It's like, oh, fuck off. You never liked it from the beginning. Well, yeah, I did. Yeah, no, you didn't. Well, obviously some of you did, but Elm Street 2 is up there because I've always liked it. And I lived through being made fun of for liking it. Like, I lived through all of that. You like Elm Street 2? Seriously. I remember living through that phase, right? Now, you say, fucking Elm Street 2, man. People are like, oh, yeah, rock on, bro, yeah. It's like, yeah, it wasn't always like that. It was not always like that. I'm trying to think. Like something today. I mean, I could say Avatar, but whether you like Avatar or not, Avatar is not a bad movie. You might not like the story or the theme, fair. But Avatar is a gigantic worldwide phenomenon. It's a huge success. So that's not even the same ballpark. But it's hip to hate Avatar, and I love it. So, I guess that's kind of a cousin of what you're talking about. I'd have to think more. I'm trying to think. It's a good question. It's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to think a bit more, but those are a few there that I tend to kind of lean on a little bit. Lee the Machine Bowers. What's going on, Lee? Sends in $9.99. Says, Dave, my man, hopefully the movie is good like the first one, and I can't wait for this Saturday, Friday the 13th final chapter. That's right, folks. This Saturday, April 13th, we are doing a member-only watch-along, horror movie nights, this Saturday. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, Lee. It will, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not really sure. Okay, did I get all the super chats? Let me just go back here back over here and see. I believe I did. Yes, I did. Back over here. Wait, there you guys are. All right. Zach Axiola says, Dave, thoughts on the Alien films that you've seen and any interest in Alien Romulus? Everything I'm hearing about so far, as well as the trailer, has me really excited. I haven't seen the Alien movies in a long time, but yeah, I mean, I like them, obviously. The first two are classics. I can't remember if I've seen Prometheus. I think I did. And I think that might have been it. I don't think I saw Alien 3. I didn't see any of the Alien versus Predator nonsense. Don't give a shit about that. I am looking forward to Alien Romulus. Yes. I thought the teaser trailer was very good. The perfect epitome of a teaser trailer. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Let me see here. Robert Holston, says, Know What You Did Last Summer has decent atmosphere. I like the fishing town, New England vibe. I agree with you, man. I think it does. It definitely does. Listen, the atmosphere in I Know What You Did Last Summer is leaps and bounds way, way better than Halloween H2O. Halloween H2O is... There's good things in it for sure, but I don't think it's aged particularly well. Again, this is my opinion. It's just because but again, look who you're talking to, right? Or look who you're listening to. I'm a Halloween purist. So part of the fundamental identity of Michael Myers and Halloween for me, of course, is that atmosphere and that mood that sets, the stage. I don't mean you have to be, on the nose with it. But a film that is void of it, I mean, I would much rather watch, and I'm not a fan of 5, that, but I'd much rather watch 5. And 5 is void of the atmosphere that 4 set up and created. But 5, as void of atmosphere as it is, has more atmosphere than H2O. Now, again, it's marginal, okay? But I'm just saying, right? Halloween 6, I'm not a fan of Halloween 6, but I'd rather watch 6 than H2O. I'm not a fan of H2O. There's good things about it for sure. I know a lot of you much prefer Laurie's arc in that film than you do the more recent films. Fair. And it's a tight movie too. It's like 88 minutes or something. It's pretty tight. That's with credits. So, 84 minutes, maybe 85. It's a pretty tight film. It moves fast. I'm not saying it's not like it's an awful film. It's competently made. It's a fun. It's very late 90s teeny bopper, fun, hip, cool. It's the hip cools. It's Scream. It's Scream with Michael Myers. And so it just didn't land with me. It just didn't land. and it doesn't really, I mean, and then of course you compound everything with all the masks and all the, the hiccups with that and everything. And, but are there redeeming qualities? Of course there are. And do I think it's better than Halloween 5 and Halloween Resurrection? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I would much rather watch H2O in a general sense than those two movies in terms of, their story and things like that, I guess. But Halloween 5 I do enjoy watching that for obvious reasons. Josh McKenna sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh, and says, I like Avatar. I know some people said it wasn't original. What are some of other movies people love that are based on pre-existing ideas? Listen, let me just say this. And this is my opinion. The argument to dislike Avatar because it's not original, and it's Pocahontas in space, it's Dances with Wolves, it's Fern Gully, whatever the case is, pick your fucking thing. It's just an echo chamber, right? I mean, every time Avatar is mentioned on social media, there is 453,721 comments that are saying the exact same thing. Nobody has an original thought. Nobody's ever looked into it. They're just repeating the buzzwords that they hear from their favorite channels. And, Avatar's story is a traditional story, yes. But when Pocahontas came out, nobody said, well, this is like Dances with Wolves. Nobody said that, right? You know what I mean? Yes, it is a traditional story that has been told before, for sure. And you know what else is? Star Wars! Star Wars! There are many, many stories that you love, that the themes of those stories are not original themes. They're not. They've been told many times over in different ways, with different settings, different generations, many times over. But it just hasn't been told like this. You know what I mean? And so when Avatar came out, yes, it was a traditional story. It had universal appeal. It appealed to the general movie-going audience, right? It's more of a populist film. It's not like a Christopher Nolan Inception or, some sort of deep-seated, layered science fiction movie. No. It's very easily digestible. But that doesn't mean it's not told beautifully and it wasn't spectacular. And yes, of course, well, nobody went for the story. Okay. So, who cares? It's a traditional story that's told well, right? That was groundbreaking effects. The effects that were used in Avatar ceased to exist before Avatar. The cameras, the equipment, the technology that was created on the original Avatar ceased to exist before Avatar. The technology that they used on The Way of Water ceased to exist before that movie. James Cameron is a revolutionary filmmaker. He is creating product. He is creating technology. It's fascinating. Now, I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm just saying that come up with it. Like, if the only reason you didn't like Avatar was because it was because it was Fern Gully in space, then there should be a litany of movies that you despise just as much as Avatar because they're not original either. And if you're not calling them out, then shut up. Because then what's really going on here is that Avatar became the highest grossing movie of all time, right? And people are like, but how did that movie become the highest grossing movie of all time? It's a traditional story. Because of the technology, because it was an experience, because it was a ride, because nobody had seen anything like it before. It's like what happened with Star Wars in 1977. Nobody had seen anything like this. What the hell is this? When the blockade runner flies over and, dun, 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 dun. Nobody had seen anything like it. Became the highest grossing movie of all time. Of course that's part of it. Of course that is the massive draw. Of course it is. I can hear people going. And I'm not saying that you have to like it. Okay, I'm not saying you have to like it. I just wish people could think for themselves. I wish, people could come up with their own thought and stop being persuaded by the groupthink confirmation bias that's out there. Next time you see when they start announcing that Avatar 3 is coming out, look at the comments and count how many times you see Ferngully in space, Dances with Wolves, Ferngully in space, Dances with Wolves, Ferngully in space, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, Ferngully in space, Dances with Wolves, Ferngully in space. Count. Nobody. It's like, what the hell is this? And I'm not saying that you're wrong, because it does have those themes. But then why are people bitching that Pocahontas is like Dances with Wolves and Dances with Wolves is like Ferngully? Why is it when Ferngully came out, people didn't go, it's just fucking Pocahontas? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because they're traditional stories that resonate and have universal themes. And James Cameron decided to tell a traditional story with a universal theme, but tell it in a mind-blowing way that the world had never seen. I'm in. I'm fucking in. Let's do it. And of course, with that, there's always minor changes as well, thematically, right? It's not like a beat for beat remake. There's things that change and things, but it's the underlining theme, right? The underlining sort of, story carries the same traditional, it's a traditional story. There's nothing wrong with it. Anyways, I just always find it funny, that people hate so much on Avatar when it is incredible, groundbreaking filmmaking. Like I said, the technology to actually film underwater for as long as they did not, the technology that was used on Avatar: The Way of Water did not exist. They created that technology. Before, most of the time when you see people swimming underwater, like, in Aquaman or something, they're not actually underwater. It's called dry for wet, or wet for dry, or whatever it is. It's back to front. And they put them all on ropes and rigs, and they do this through the air. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. Sure. But when you look at the difference, when you're actually in the water, how light reflects water, the light that comes through the water, to actually see that water in the frame, the way the bubbles move, the way you can't, that's real. And it looks incredible. But it's a traditional story. Shut up. Who cares? Enjoy the ride. How many times have you watched Halloween? I'm speaking generally. I'm not talking about anybody specific. I love you all. League of the Machine Powers sends in $9.99. The Terminator turns 40th this October 26th. That's right. The Terminator is 40 years old this year. There's a lot of movies. Beverly Hills Cop is 40 this year. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is 40 this year. One of my favorite films of all time, Indiana Jones and the Temple, one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies. Love that movie. That's right. That's 40 this year. Ghostbusters is 40 this year. Oh man. Excuse me. Gremlins is 40 this year. There's some great ones for sure. Great ones for sure. Thank you, Lee, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Ryan Oshlow says, I'm not ashamed for loving Showgirls. Hey, well, there you go. And you shouldn't be. Nobody should be ashamed of liking what they like and disliking what they dislike. When I go on my Avatar rants, and I've gone on a few of them, this is not the first time I have, but when I go on my Avatar rants, I'm not saying, again, I'm speaking, of course it's my opinion. Of course it is. If you genuinely dislike the movie, you actually just, you don't like the movie, it's boring, it's shit, I don't know, it's just a shitty movie. I think it's a shitty movie. Hey, I can't take that experience away from you. I can't do that. right? If that is legitimately your experience, you don't like the movie, that's fair. That's totally fair. Your opinion is just as valid as mine. I'm more talking about those that, and you know it exists, right? You know what I mean? Because you can see it. It's the echo chamber. It's the groupthink. They don't think for themselves. And, they're too afraid to admit when they like a movie that the majority of people don't. Like I said, it's not hip to, although I think Avatar is fantastic and I really enjoyed The Way of Water, it's not, the hip, cool thing to say you're a big Avatar fan. It's not. It seems to be the hip, cool thing to say you hate it. I don't fucking care. It's like I said to you, I like Barbie. I liked it. I thought it was funny. I don't care. Dave liked Barbie. Yeah, I like Barbie. I thought it was funny. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but what about all the wokeness? Yeah, I know. It's in there. Yep, totally. But what about the woke shit and that dumb speech? Yeah, no. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. One of the reasons why I think a lot, the wokeness, if you will, in Barbie worked for me is because the whole movie was satirical. It's not like it's a serious movie that feels like there's some woke thing that's shoehorned in that feels really out of place. Do you know what I mean? Like the entire movie is a satire. The entire movie is ridiculous. The entire movie is silly. And so I think, yes, of course I noticed all of the woke messaging, of course. But I'm just saying that it didn't bother me. I didn't sit there going, God damn it. It just was, it's because the whole movie was silly. And I thought that Greta Gerwig did a great job. The set design was great. I had fun. I had fun watching it. I thought it was a fun movie, and I'm confident in, my views on the world and on life and how I feel about society and all the stuff that's going on in society, that I don't feel like this is infringing on that. And like I'm going to be like somehow persuaded to suddenly, feel or think something that I don't agree with. I just thought it was a funny movie and I could recognize the other good things about it. I liked it. I like Barbie. But that's not the hip, cool thing to say, I'll tell you that. The Karate Kid, Bobby Hall. That's right. The Karate Kid is 40 years old this year. You are absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. Cody Snyder, one of our great mods. He's talking about WrestleMania, I think. Is that what you're talking about? If Mania is in Minneapolis next year, yeah, you're talking about WrestleMania. I know nothing about wrestling. I haven't followed wrestling probably since 1999. I mean, on the peripheral, I kind of, you know what I mean? Because it shows up in feeds and things like that. But like actually knowing like what's going on, no idea. Last time I actually sat down and watched WWE wrestling, it was WWF. And so that was a long time ago. And of course, as a kid, I watched it, Hogan and Andre and all that. Macho Man. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was great stuff. Great stuff. Bobby Hall says, Barbie didn't really feel as preachy as some other movies. Yeah, I think that's it. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's not that there isn't a strong message in that movie that some could perceive as woke. And of course, there's that speech, I understand it. But to Bobby Hall's point, I think because the whole movie was satirical, right? It was like a cartoon, like the whole movie was just, it was very stylized and very... I think that's why the woke part of the movie didn't feel intrusive to me. You know what I mean? Whereas it would have if I was sitting down to watch, a serious action movie or something, or I'm sitting down to watch Terminator, where I'm not expecting to get that or to see that, right? But in Barbie, I'm going into the theater expecting, it's Barbie. Like I've said, it's Barbie. Of course it's going to be all about female empowerment and women. It's Barbie. What the hell am I expecting? Rambo? Like these men, these masculine men that went into Barbie and left bitching about Barbie is hilarious. It's Barbie, dude. It's not G.I. Why? It's Barbie. What'd you expect? Oh, Barbie was all about female empowerment. It's Barbie. Shut up. Anyway. Lee the Machine Bowers, ladies and gentlemen, sends in another $9.99. Says maybe next watch along we could do a poll to vote. The Terminator, Ghostbusters, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Gremlins. Ooh, you might be onto something there, Lee. Maybe that will be our May Horror Movie Nights watch along. Remember, folks, if you want to get on Horror Movie Nights, it's a once a month watch along for my level 2 members. Link is in the description, or hit that join button and you can become part of level number 2. This Saturday, we're watching Friday the 13th Part 4, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. The Oct sends in $4.99. Says, hey Dave, are there any sequels that you prefer over the original? I prefer Terminator 2 over T1. Well, I prefer The Empire Strikes Back over the original Star Wars. My favorite Indiana Jones is the Temple of Doom. But the best Indiana Jones is still Raid. Like, it really is. I think I prefer Temple. I don't know if as a kid growing up, I always preferred Temple over Raiders, but I always recognized that Raiders was a brilliant film, and like just like the way it was made, it's a fantastic movie. But Temple is very kid friendly, I think, right? You know what I mean? It's one fucking crazy adventure after another, and wild plane crashes and monkey brains and hot lava pits, and I mean, and spike ceilings and suspension bridges, and I mean, it was awesome. I love the Temple of Doom. Still, definitely, I think my favorite Indiana Jones. But whether I say I like it better than Raiders, I don't know if I like it better than Raiders, if that makes sense. But it's still, I think, maybe my favorite. But I love Raiders too. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a good question. What others? Well, I mean, I have to think a little more. I think of some sequels. I prefer Halloween 1 to Halloween 2, so that doesn't count. As much as I love the original, or the Elm Street 2, I do prefer the original. I like the original the best. Friday 2, maybe I prefer Friday 2 over the original Friday. That could be one there. There's some others for sure. Good question. Very good question. And a lot of people are with you. A lot of people like Terminator 2 over Terminator 1. It's true. A lot of people do. All right. We'll go a couple more minutes here, and then I will call it a evening. I'll call it an evening. Did I miss any super chats, by the way? I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't think I did. I just want to make sure I didn't. Hey, you know what? Before I forget, because I'm likely to forget, it's happened before. Let's check in on the poll. Let's end the poll. The final results of the poll, ladies and gentlemen, here in the chat are: do you want a legacy sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer starring Jennifer Love Hewitt? 62% of you said yes, 37% of you said no, and 185 of you voted. So a little more towards the yes in this poll than the poll in my community section, but still not like overwhelming. You know what I mean? Still, 62%, right? And so regardless of whether it's this poll or the poll in my community section, maybe I should do one on Twitter. That would be interesting. It still shows that there is, although the yes group is winning, they are not winning by a huge margin that you would see with almost every other franchise. And so that is interesting. And there's reasons for it, which of course I talked about here on the channel earlier in the show. All right. Tabitha Short. Hey, what's going on? Tabitha says, I say put a bunch of movies you'd like to watch on a roulette wheel and nobody knows what you're watching till you spin right before you watch. Movie night mayhem. That's actually not a bad idea. Tabitha. Huh. I might do that. that's actually not a bad idea. But then if it, it would have to be movies that we all would really like. But maybe there's one movie that's like a stinker. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh God, I hope it doesn't land up with the stinker. Oh God, maybe there's like one, like, or not a stinker, but one that would be like totally not like, why would, like, The English Patient. Nope, that's it. It landed on The English Patient. That's what we're watching for Saturday movie night. Or, it's something like, I don't know, some movie that is, I don't know, My Best Friend's Wedding with Julia Roberts. Nope, that's it. We're watching it. Oh my God, that would be so funny. Bobby Hall says, Dave, you've mentioned many times how your brother Neil told you he was going to see Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yes. Did he enjoy the film? What did he think of the rest of the series? Great question. So I mean, it's a long time ago. I think Neil enjoyed it enough. But Neil is very much like me. I think his favorite actually is Halloween 2. I think he prefers Halloween 2 over Halloween 1. But he was like me, like growing up with my brother when 4 came out, when 5 came out, when H2O, and he's 9 years older than me, by the way. So when I say growing up, he was, a lot older, but, I would say that he's very much like me, that I don't think he's quite as intense as me. But he too, like, appreciates, like, the mask has got to be really good and the atmosphere has got to be there and it's got to be, he's a bit of a Halloween purist himself too. And, so did he like the movie when it came out? I think he liked it enough, but I know he didn't love it. I know there were things he didn't like about it. One of the big things, of course, was the mask. And back then, unless you subscribed to Fangoria or you happen to catch something on Entertainment Tonight, I mean, there was no internet, right? I mean, so nobody like, you go and, and I know there were commercials and things like that, but seeing the movie in the theater, I mean, it must have been like, fuck, like, and it was for him, like a big doubt, like a fuck, it's the mask sucks. And, so it was, I think he enjoyed it, but I don't think he loved it, is my memory. I'd have to ask him the next time I talk to him if I remember to mention it. But, and he pretty much has the same outlook of the rest of the series as I do. He likes the first one, likes the second one, obviously. But I don't think he's overall a big fan of the rest of the series, really. I don't think, yeah, we're very much in the same sort of lane like that. For sure. All right, what is it? We're past time for tonight anyway. All right, folks, listen, did I get all the super chats? I think I did. I did, yes. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me here on this episode of McRae Live, the 250th episode. I want to thank, of course, all the super chat questions that came in today, some of those non-ones that I was able to get to as well. Really appreciate you all tuning in, of course. Thank you to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tab of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you to my channel members as well for being members here on the channel. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And I will be back very soon with another episode, of course. I'm hoping it can be, maybe we can talk about something a little more current. I just got to watch one of these movies. I want to see Late Night with the Devil. I want to see Immaculate, and I want to see The First Omen. So maybe I should just go and see them. That would help. But definitely, yes, another show will be coming down the pipe very soon. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on I Know What You Did Last Summer and this potential legacy sequel that is in the works. I'm sort of not convinced that this will come to fruition. I know it was an article on Deadline, and I have, seen, and it feels like it's kind of there, but is it? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. With a franchise that that really went nowhere and really only had one good movie that was 27 years ago, with a television series on Prime that failed after one season, is this the right choice? Is this the right move? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Folks, if you want to follow me on social media, you can. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you all soon. Alrighty. Cheers.